Hello everybody, my name is Partha Basu. I live in Singapore. This recording I am doing for my YouTube channel. I have not opened the channel yet, so this is the episode 1, you can say. I intend to upload. So why I wanted to do a YouTube channel? Because everybody else is doing it. Not really. Actually, when I was working, I thought of from childhood. I was thinking of writing something, writing books because I'm an avid reader. So I read a lot of books, and from childhood I thought I'll write something. But then I went to studies and went to job, and my job was so occupying. I didn't really have any time to write anything, and I travel all over the world. So then I thought, okay, I will start writing after I retire. So I live in Singapore. So Singapore, because the population is aging, so number of people are less. So here the government rule is that after someone retire at 62, they can work another 5-6 years if the company wants. And in my case, the company wanted it because of my expertise probably. So I continue to work. So I continued to work for another 6-7 years, and finally I retired last year, which is 2025. Today is 2nd January 2026. So I thought, okay, I will open a YouTube channel now because I don't feel like writing anymore, become too lazy, and YouTube is the new media. So another thing is that I don't have any enthusiasm at this point of my life. I don't want to edit or something like this. So in writing, I have to do a lot of edit. I don't like it. And who's going to publish it? Whereas in YouTube channel, I can say anything I like, unedited, unscripted, and I just upload. I don't care anybody look it into not. Even if somebody look into it, it's great. Otherwise, I'm doing it for my own satisfaction. So, what is the subject I will discuss? Mainly 3 items. One is that from childhood, from when I'm during my student days, not childhood, I was very much interested in politics, Indian politics. I am originally from India, and I actually supporting one particular party. Then, of course, after education, I just sucked into the job, and then I moved abroad from India, and then I travel many places, and most of my life I live in Singapore. So there is no time to do any politics anymore. So that is one thing I still have in my mind. But this politics, I'm not going to discuss politics as such. I want to discuss the Indian politics, to be very frank. And discuss means I go to India every year and see the shouting going on TV. Everybody is bitching everybody else. So I thought I also have a right to bitching myself and the politicians. And why I want to discuss politics, I'll discuss later in some other episode. The second thing I want to discuss is engineering, electrical engineering. I'm an electrical engineer. So during my course of work, I did electrical engineering job in a large oil and gas company, and it's mainly the traditional electrical engineering like equipments like transformers, motors, switchgears, etc., etc. So I used to coach and train younger engineers, and they tell me that okay, I had some good teaching ability. So I used to coach them, and then I thought, why don't I list some of those? Then I look at the YouTube, almost everything is there. So I may not add anything new, but I still want to do that. If somebody like it is good. If somebody don't like it is also good. I'll do it for my own satisfaction. The third thing I want to discuss about the economy and management. I'll give my educational background slightly later. I have some interest in economics and management, and I still feel the economists are not doing a good job in the world. There are great economists, they talk about since Keynesian theory and all this kind of thing. But in my opinion, economy is just a common sense. If you have this much fund, if you spend more than that, that is not good. But I look at the world today, basically the whole world is running on debt, and economists are coming up with all kind of bullshit theories every other time. There are hundreds of economists, none of them can converge into one kind of theory. And the international organization like WTO and IMF, they have hundreds of economy, and they are not doing really anything good for the people actually, in most of the people. And if I see similar to the management, I did an MBA, and we have a lot of good theories, and the theories are all good, but in a real life, very few of them are practiced. So I am going to bitch about those also. So this is the main thing. So my subject will be politics, mostly Indian politics, electrical engineering, the traditional equipment, and economics and management. Basically, I will rant probably, and every episode I may pick up something and go on ranting for half an hour. So if I make mistake, I am not going to edit anything. As I say, I don't really have enthusiasm for that. I'll just record and upload. If I make a mistake, I will correct it in the next episode. If somebody pointed out, I don't think my videos will be seen by many. Even if somebody points out, I will correct it in the next episode. If somebody trolls me, I will apologize to them if it is valid. Otherwise, I don't care about trolls. And if somebody likes it and I try to ask question mainly on the electrical engineering part or even the politics, I will reply them actually. So every episode I will jot down a few points and discuss those. So this episode is the first episode. So basically I give some detailed background. I was born in India in a small town in West Bengal, and I did my education there and did my engineering in electrical engineering, and then I moved to Delhi to do my job. That was one of the best engineering company in India, and then I stayed there for about 10 years. Then I moved to Middle East, and Middle East during the Gulf War I was forced to come back. I did an MBA beside electrical engineering, so I thought I'll change my line. So I changed my line to do some management job in a medium-sized company in India, and I absolutely hated it. Means it is not really management, all the theory we studied and all this kind of thing, very difficult to apply in a small company like that. So I got an opportunity to come to Singapore and in an engineering company. So I came to Singapore, and then in Singapore I changed few jobs and finally settled on this oil and gas company. This particular company is one of the best company. It trained us a lot, and while I did engineering here mostly, but I could apply many of my management skill here, like what I learned as a MBA, like operation management, like man management, because as I grew senior, I received more and more responsibility. So I see some of the good management, and companies send us for a lot of training. And then I realized that the management has some simple rules, but many companies don't follow that. They talk about something and they don't do that. So I may discuss some of those also. So these are the three main subjects I want to discuss. Economics I already said, because I don't understand why the economists comes with new theories one after another, and the world economy is going haywire here and there, because it is simple. If somebody living beyond their means, it is not going to work. So I jot, as I say, I jot down some point and then I will discuss those. Let me see what I want to discuss. So why now? I told you I when I came back after my few jobs in India and Middle East to Singapore, I am here almost very long, and then due to company's work, I went to USA and stayed there for 3 years. I was in UK for about 3 years. I was in China for about 3 years. So I basically traveled many places. Not travel means not like a business travel. Business travel, you go and you don't know the country. Basically, if you stay there for 7 8 days, you stay in a hotel, downtown area. But once you live in a country for at least a year, you know the country very well. You mix with your neighbors. You know their culture. You know their thinking. So I had a fairly good idea about American culture, the European culture. Italy also I stayed about 1 year. Middle East culture, Indian culture, Singapore culture, China culture. So kind of many cultures. So I may discuss some of those. The last one I came from China. So what after all these years I worked almost 47 years. So a lot of wisdom also. So I learned many things about the culture. So I am going to discuss those also. What else I want to discuss? Did I jot down anything else? Why I want to discuss Indian politics? This is mainly for my travel. So as I say, I travel all over the world, and I see how some countries did fantastic, and some countries could not do. And my last assignment was in China, where I stay almost 3 years, and I saw how China has improved in last 20 years, like a leaps and bounds. And India and China is very similar in population, and they came out of colonial rule almost at the same time. And earlier we can always compare like Singapore. Singapore is a unique case. Singapore is a textbook case how a country at such a young age could move from just a backyards of a Malaysia to a super developed country, and now it is considered like a #1 country in the world in terms of GDP, or in terms of GDP per capita, in terms of health index, in terms of livability. But Singapore is very small, and the main thing is Singapore has got a visionary leader, Lee Kuan Yew, and he made it possible to make it from like a backyard, the neglected backyard, to a first world country. But Singapore is small, maybe easier to manage. So I don't want to compare India with Singapore, or even Korea and Japan, who got independence approximately, not independence, basically came out of colonial rule approximately same time and improved. China is a good example why, with what India can be compared. Of course, one can say China is a communism rule and all this kind of thing. But as I say, I stayed in China, even if it is communist rule, they have a pattern how they select their leaders and all these things. And those are not much different than even a democratic country, actually. So we'll discuss that later. But what I get pissed off, like in India, after 75 years, we have not gone anywhere. It is still so poor, it is so haphazardly managed, and like when Mr. Modi came approximately 11 years ago, we had a lot of hope, but it's not progressing well because it is sheer corruption at all levels, the laziness at many levels, and in my opinion, all this thing comes because of lack of leadership. So I'll be bitching about those so-called leadership. I'll pick up some of the news item, what the Indian news item discuss, and then why we cannot achieve those. That is one thing. That's why the main reason I want to discuss Indian politics. I don't want to discuss other countries' politics because I'm not a citizen of those countries. So really, I have technically I'm not allowed to discuss those countries' politics, or it may not be taken in a nice way. But in general, comment should be possible as long as it is allowed within that country, particular country's rules and regulations and laws. Okay. The electrical engineering part I discussed briefly. I want to discuss as electrical engineers and in a traditional sense. So I basically want to discuss a few equipment, and the theory etc. everybody knows, but my expertise was how to manage those equipment and some stories what I saw how the equipment behaves operationally. So I will discuss mainly the equipment operation and how to manage those equipment and what is the best way of maintaining those equipment, and the modern term is equipment strategy. So I want to discuss those equipment strategy, and this I hope will be useful to some of the younger engineers, and if they have more question I can discuss those. I will pick up one particular equipment at a time, say motor, and I will discuss motor in one episode and follow up if required. That is my desire. Why YouTube? As I said earlier, like I wanted to write, but now I don't feel like writing. I will record it and just I will not edit. I'll just upload. If I can upload, I am not sure. I have to check. And what else? So this is basically it is my first episode. But what I wanted to give some more background. I said briefly already, maybe repetition, but as I say, I am not going to edit it. I was born in a small town in West Bengal, India, and that is called Jalpaiguri. It's a tea garden town. It's a very nice town. And then I grew up there. I did my schooling there, and I did my college there from a government engineering college. And then I moved to Delhi. So Delhi, I spent about 11 years in an engineering company. I may tell the name later. This is the first episode. I'm not telling any names, but if those who know me, they know the company very well. I have an open book in my life, nothing to hide. So I was in Engineers India, and in India, everybody want to go abroad to earn more money, just because we can. So I went to Middle East, and Middle East will be surprised to know I was in Iraq, and just before the first Gulf War. So a lot of people from my company went to Iraq, and I stayed in Iraq for 1 year, slightly over 1 year, and it was not that bad. That was during Saddam Hussein time. We heard a lot of stories from outside, but when I was there, I can discuss that also later. And then when the war started, obviously I had to come back. So then I came back to Delhi, and I had one project manager who used to know me from my earlier company. He changed his job to a mid-sized company, and he immediately offered me a job, and that is so good of him. He was a nice fellow. A long time I have not met him. His name is VK Sood, Vinod Kumar Sood, in Delhi. He's a fantastic guy. He's a real fantastic guy. So next time I go to Delhi, I have not met him long time. I must meet him. So he gave me a job immediately. But the company I worked, it is basically my job was like a business development and getting the job. And after I get the job, the execution part will be done by others. So, but to get the job was very difficult. So difficult in the sense it is not like the standard MBA way I learned, like you get a quotation, do the cash flow, make a profit margin and calculate and all this kind of thing. There are a lot of other funny thing was going on. Maybe I'll discuss those in another episode. And then I thought this is not the job I want to do. So then I got one of my other friend get me offer in Singapore. So I came to Singapore in a contractor engineering company. That was a short contract. And when the contract was over, that contract would have been extended, but I was getting a so-called permanent job in another engineering company. I joined that engineering company, but in Singapore, technically nothing is permanent, even those days. So I worked in that company about 3 years. Then when company was not doing good, I left and joined another company. And from that company, I joined to the oil and gas company. And that oil and gas company, I stayed almost 30 years. So that was my biggest learning point. So I'm in Singapore for almost 35 years now, which is very long. So I'm still Indian. I'm a Singapore permanent resident. Why I did not change my citizenship? You can consider the first generation sentiment, maybe. And on hindsight, I should have converted. Like when I first came here in 1992, I got an offer from government to convert myself to Singapore citizen, and I did not do that. And maybe foolishly, I thought, okay, I still have my Indian sentiment inside and all this kind of thing. And I was not very sure at that time. And then I did not. And then after that, I become lazy and I didn't get another letter from government. And I also did not do it myself. On hindsight, I should have, but I did not. But that's okay. That is my background. And I can tell you that I already said that I almost stayed all kind of places. In US, I was in Houston. In Europe, I was in Italy for 1 year, and in UK for 3 years. In Middle East, I was in Iraq for slightly over 1 year. I stayed in India. Singapore, I am here almost 35 years. In between, I went here and there. And in China, I was 3 and 2.5 years, or 3 years approximately. And during my business trip, I went many places. That is also one of my dream after retirement. I wanted to visit 100 countries. So far, I think I'm only 55 or 56, so I have a lot to go. I'm not sure whether I will be able to do that, but I will try my best. So this is my first episode. So I will upload this, and next episode, probably I actually recorded something about, I talk about China. Why I am impressed about China? Because as I said, the China and India is almost same population, similar background, the old Asian background. And the way the China move up, I think that they also had a visionary leader like Deng Xiaoping, and he basically opened up the China, and of course WTO also helped, but basically the people of China made it. So I'm so impressed with China. They're technologically so advanced. The infrastructure they copied from USA, their airport and other things. So I was so impressed. I recorded a small video about China. Maybe I will upload that also as a episode 2. And next to that, I will discuss one engineering item. I'll try to keep it half an hour. Engineering item may go longer, so it could be longer, or I'll make it 2 episodes. Half an hour is a lot to talk continuously. So if you like my episode in future, give a comment. I'll try to discuss that as a later episode. If you really want to know something technical in detail, you can send me email, but that email etc. I may reply email wise, or I may discuss it here. I am not decided yet what I will do actually. And if anybody has any comment on the improvement or some feedback or some criticism, you can say that. Please don't troll because trolling will be ignored anyway. That's all for today in this episode. Let me quickly check. I jot down some point. I am going to say something else today. No, I think for today that's good enough. So we are still 25 minutes, so 5 minutes more. So let me say something else about my family. I am married. I have my wife and 2 daughters. They all live in Singapore. What else? I already said where I came from. My hobbies are mainly reading and traveling. I used to read a lot, all kind of books. Now I read mostly thriller and novel, light, not much. When I travel, basically I like to go to the countryside also. Wherever I went, I used to drive, but now because I'm getting old, so driving is a bit difficult. So nowadays, many places I take a package tour. Like recently, I went to, not recently, I think last January, I went to New Zealand, and I took all package tour. But then I realized it is a fantastic place to drive. I stay in Australia for a while, and I drove in Australia like Melbourne area and countryside. Where New Zealand is a even more fantastic place to drive, but I did not drive actually. So that is one thing I miss as I grow older. What else? That's it. So thank you very much. I'll see you next episode.